Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast, our Good News Bay podcast, where we are seeking to make Bay County brighter one conversation at a time. And with each guest, we have a brand new conversation, a fun conversation. Many of them are faith-filled conversations. This will be another one of those, along with some incredible content and some good news happenings around the community. Today's guest with us is Denise Kelley. She is the Deputy Superintendent Teaching and Learning for Bay District Schools, which I'm pretty sure means that you are kind of the number two role, and you serve, well, you're answering lots of questions and trying to provide information and keeps things organized and know a little bit about a whole lot of things and a lot about a whole lot of things, and are trying to keep up with a bunch of changes.
Sure.
A little bit of biography about our friend Denise. She is born and raised in Bay County, graduated from Bay High School. Go Bay, can we say that?
That's
Go
right.
Tornadoes. It sounds weird coming from a dolphin. Florida State grad with a bachelor's in education and a master's in education leadership. Want to talk about your husband Mark for a moment?
Sure.
Captain Mark?
Let's talk about Captain Mark.
All right, a.k.a. Moses.
Yeah, right?
Funny things you learn when you do these interviews. I knew he was a boat captain. I knew I'd see pictures on Facebook of... is it Lady Kelley?
Lady Kelley. Yeah, he runs the Lady Kelley.
All right, and y'all have got two boats with the charter business?
Lady Kelley and the Kelley Girl.
All right. And it sounds like business is good and that there's lots of people wanting to snapper fish.
Lots of people fishing, lots of people wanting to fish. We have been very blessed this season.
Sweet. And so we're going to have a link in the comment section. I think it's the comments that you can go to if you want to see where and how and see pictures of some big fish. I also know that in addition to your husband Mark, you have a daughter Carly, who is now grown. She's an adult. She's married. She loves the Lord.
She does. They all do.
Yeah, and you've got a granddaughter, Lydia. How old is Lydia?
Lydia is 2. She's my angel.
She is precious, and they say grandbabies change things.
Oh my goodness!
I've got a lot of friends these days. It seems like they're starting to get to that phase where the kids are grown and starting to get married and have grandbabies, and I think it does change things.
It does. Nothing compares to it.
Absolutely. Well, we had to talk about Lydia first, but you also have a son-in-law, Garrison.
I do.
Stand-up fella.
He is.
He's a man's man. Can I say that? Is that okay? And so he also loves to fish.
Yeah.
He also has a boat.
He does.
And a charter company, and he does a lot of inshore.
He does inshore fishing.
And what's the name of that?
He runs the Real Rosie.
All right. And so there'll also be a link there for that. And then you have a son.
I do.
Carson. Who I met. He's 20.
He is 20.
Is he at Florida State?
He's a Florida State student full-time. He's home for the summer, but taking classes online too. And he's running a boat of his own.
He's running a boat.
And so we are a fishing family and education family.
Well, that is a good thing. I love fishing. I love fishermen. I talk about it too much probably, but Jesus loved to fish. I say loved to fish. He cooked fish. He cooked fish for the disciples, but when he did fish, he caught big ones and he caught lots of them. I read about it in the text.
So you're trying to be like him in more ways than just,
I am. I kind of like to, yes, absolutely. So all that's cool. So that's a lot of family background.
Sure.
I want to get into some personal stuff because this is part of your story. And just from the outset, I'm going to tell folks that they can go to an interview you did with Channel 13 and Miss Amy Hoyt. Recently, relative to buddy check and breast cancer. That's part of that story, but that story didn't start with finding breast cancer. It actually started when you were, it started long before you were 29, but you were a teacher, 29. You were in a car accident.
I was.
And it literally was a drunk driving accident?
Yes. I was coming home from a teacher's conference. At night, at 9 o'clock at night on 23rd Street at the baseball fields, right there, that curve. And I saw her coming around the curve.
Now, are we talking about Rep Borland?
What?
23rd Street.
23rd Street, right there at the baseball fields.
Close to the college.
Gulf Coast, yes.
Yes.
Yes, at Gulf Coast.
They used to call that Rep Borland.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, they did. And we'd hit baseballs over the screen and into the street.
Okay.
We'd see them bounce like golf balls.
Well,
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that was the right spot.
So the baseball didn't hit me. A car hit me.
A car hit you. Did it come from the other side?
Yeah, so I was going around the curve and I saw a car coming toward me and I noticed that she was in my lane. I was driving in the inside lane. I was the lead car. And she was in my lane and I thought, is this car in my lane? You have seconds. And so literally going through my mind, I'm thinking, I can't stop. I can't put on brakes because there's people behind me. I can't swerve to the outside lane because there's a person there. And if I swerve and miss and go into the trees, if you hit a pine tree, you die. I mean, this is all going through my mind. So I literally hung on and I said, Jesus, I hope I'm alive when this is over. And she hit me. They anticipated, or they projected she was going 70, and I had slowed down to 40. And she had hit me on my side. And so I was driving a Honda Accord, little Honda Accord, no airbags at the time, in 97. And that little car did its job with the seatbelt. And I was never knocked out. But I remember spun around. I remember when I stopped, my knees hurt, my head hurt, my arm was broken. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm alive. And literally thinking, I survived this. Now I have to get out of this car.
It's crazy.
But I couldn't. I had broken patella. My arm was broken. I had a head injury. I also had all my ribs were broken. And so they literally took me to the hospital. And I ended up in the hospital for 7 days, 3 surgeries. The vertigo was so severe from the head injury that I couldn't sit up. I literally had family take care of me for 6 months. And I was in leg cast from hip to ankle for 8 weeks. And literally, I had to have help getting around. Carly was 3 at the time. Thank the Lord she was not with me at the time. And so, there's so many things that happened during that time, with the fact that I had the accident. I was in the hospital. The lady that hit me ended up going to prison for 7 years. Yeah. In fact, they weren't sure she was going to make it through the night just because she was so drunk. She was like 0.27. I think was her alcohol level. They put us in the same ambulance, took us to the hospital together. And so, when my pastor got there, I'm like, could you go check on her? Like they said she may not make it through the night. And I'm like, she needs Jesus. If she doesn't have Jesus, if she can accept Jesus, and so, she survived. I ended up getting a letter from her, once she served her time. And, so was going through leg cast and everything. Carly was 3. Mark was playing baseball at the time. When I was laying on the couch.
Mark was playing baseball?
Football. No, softball. Mark was playing softball at the time at night. Okay. When I found a lump.
I didn't know. I knew he fished. I didn't know he did anything.
Yeah, he played softball too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting. This is bad.
And so, so he was at softball practice, or game 1, when I found the lump in my breast. Sitting on the couch. How long is this
after the accident?
So the accident was in January, and I found this in March of the same year.
Had you told me earlier that you had to relearn how to walk?
I did.
Had you learned how to walk again by the time that they found the cancer?
No, I was still in leg cast. So the thought of, I'm in leg cast. How's this going to work? Like, I can't even get up by myself, right? Yeah. So they, friends, Mark got me to the doctor. Actually, the first time I went, they said, let's watch it for a couple of months because it's probably a hematoma from the seatbelt. So we watched it, and it didn't go away. So by the time I went back to the doctor, the leg casts were off, but the leg cast has stayed on for so long, and the patella, the scar tissue had attached itself to the bone and to the underneath of the patella. So learning how to walk again meant breaking the scar tissue so that my knees would bend. Like,
that hurts.
Oh goodness, does it hurt? It's probably worse than child labor. And so I was going to therapy every day, try to learn to walk. And so when we went back to the doctor, and he said, let's just take it out. We won't have to worry about it. And I remember him taking it out, him coming into the recovery room, and he said, Denise, you have breast cancer. And I was 29. And I had a 3-year-old. And at that time, it was very, very rare for them to find cancer in that age of young person. I had no history of breast cancer.
Way more proactive now, aren't they?
Yes. And so, so I remember, and this is an important part, I think, of who I am. I remember we came back home, and Mark and I, believers, we sat on the couch and we just cried for probably 2 hours. And then I got mad
Hang on, is it okay for Christians to cry, and is it okay for them to get mad?
Yeah, I think it is because we were brokenhearted.
Those are human emotions.
Yeah.
It is okay. I want people to hear that and know that. That's real life.
Yeah. And so, and I remember he helped me get up because I still couldn't get off the couch. And I said, help me up. So I got up and I was just kind of walking back and forth. Carly wasn't there at the time. And I said out loud, I'm like, God, I don't understand. And I remember where I was. And I said, I started listing. I'm like, I'm a good person. There are bad people in this world. And I literally started listing. I have sang in the choir. I've taught children's church. I've led the Christmas musicals. I have played the piano at church. I'm in church every Sunday and Wednesday night. Like, why is this happening to me? And it was an audible voice that wasn't audible.
Yeah.
Said, I owe you nothing except what I've already given you. You cannot earn my love, my respect, my healing, my salvation because of your works. And it was at that point that I realized that everything that I've been doing for Jesus was for his love and his protection and not because I loved him. And that's when my entire life changed.
So you were doing things to show God that you loved him, or so that he would love you, not because he loved you.
Yes. And so, that was the reason why I went to church every Sunday, because I did love Jesus. Do you know what I'm saying? I love Jesus, but I didn't realize I went to church and I sang because maybe things won't happen to me. But literally, in the Bible, it says those things that I feared come upon me. Like, my two fears in life were a car accident and cancer. And I had both of them in the same year. So it was at that point in my life that I had to make a decision. I either trust God or I don't trust God. Either he is Lord of my life or he is not Lord of my life. And that was, I tell people now, I'm like, all he has to do is just tell me because I'm listening now. Before I thought I was listening, but I wasn't listening. And I truly believe everybody hits their rock bottom. And I was always a good person. My daddy taught me how to be a good person in my eyes, in his eyes, in the world's eyes.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that I realized that we are not good in anybody's eyes.
The Bible describes man as a heart that's desperately wicked and deceitful, and compared to Jesus, we are all riches.
Yeah, and so, it was at that point that I realized that, okay, my goals in life have shifted, and my goals aren't personal goals anymore as far as career and those kinds of things. My goals is to serve the Lord.
So we got a lot of school stuff to talk about. This is cool because I didn't think we're going this deep. So I think it's important sometimes to walk through the emotions, because really, as I look at your story outwardly, I look at you're confessing out loud what I thought would have been true, which is here's someone who has been through these really unfair things, or seemingly like, why would this good thing or bad thing happen to a good person? And you chose still to believe anyway. That was a process for you. Mm-hmm. Was it days long? Was it months long?
No, it wasn't, because, to me, it was more instantaneously, because it was like a revelation that had been revealed to me of the fact that, I had always been able to control my life. So I thought I trusted Jesus. Yeah. Even with the car accident, it was, I can get better, right?
Yep.
But with breast cancer, I couldn't fix that.
Is it fair to say, and it's probably not fair that he's not on the couch beside you for me to ask him, but since you've given me his nickname as Moses, I'm assuming that this period of time was a big deal faith-wise in Mark's life too. Y'all had to walk that together, right?
Yeah, it was tough. We had days that we cried together. We had days we laughed together. We had days that we fought.
Well, and
truly.
You're speaking for a woman. Let me speak for a man for a second, because when you're telling me this story, I'm thinking, okay, well, and I watched the story that was done with the buddy check stuff, and if I was a woman dealing with breast cancer, I would want to know what are all the protocols and what do you do and how do you get everything right. But as you're talking about having a 3-year, Carly was 3. I'm thinking, oh no, I got to raise this child and take care of mama. Like this ain't fair. And as protector and I mean all those things. It's a similar struggle, I would imagine, but his realm of emotions would have been. I mean, he needed softball to have a distraction in a way.
Yeah, and I think his he may have suffered in a different way. He suffered more than I did because I knew what I was feeling in my body and I knew the mindset that I had. But sometimes he was guessing. How are you doing?
I think this is good news. I was actually talking to a couple this week. One of them is ill. They both have had some traumatic events this is the first time that she has seen him. And she's like, it was easier when I was going through it than it is watching him go through it. And I think that's what you're sharing.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so he and I both grew, and our marriage, is stronger because he did things for me he never thought he'd have to do. And
you said you married young. Can I point that out?
Yeah.
How old were you when you got married?
So I was 19 and 11 months when I got married. Almost 20.
I think it's great. I was barely 20, so I think that's cool.
He was 23 and I was almost 20.
It can work.
It can.
You had a favorite Bible verse that I wanted to, something that I think you said was Matthew 5:36. Don't be afraid, just believe.
Just believe.
Is that something
verse.
You clung to?
Oh my goodness. Like short, sweet. I mean, the Lord said it, do not fear, only believe. And it's very easy for me to say and for me to quote. But, anytime something comes up in my life that might be somewhat scary, I have to say it over and over and over again. And walking by faith is a daily struggle.
I think that's true for everybody. It is a daily struggle. It's a daily grind. It's a daily trusting it to God when you can't see and you don't understand. And you have to be reminded of, okay, I got you through the last time. I'll get you through this time.
And you're not in control.
I hate that part.
No, me too.
We've learned that a lot with pandemics and hurricanes and a whole bunch of other stuff.
But you know what? I've decided through all of that my day starts and the joy of the Lord is my strength. And He has given me laughter. He's given me joy. And He's given me so much to be thankful for that every day is a blessing. Every breath I take is from Him.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Every breath. Because it almost ended with a car wreck.
And you can appreciate it more than most of us, probably. When I look at your life now, and I know that you've got a amazing family, little Lydia, in those moments, you probably never could have looked that far into the future and thought there's still a future. This is going to be okay. In fact, there are going to be some great days. There's going to be some days of tossing my granddaughter around. I don't know that you toss. Maybe Mark tosses her.
Yeah, I don't toss her.
But you get to play. You get to play dolls, and you get to make her smile, and you get to go get picture sessions. And I think there's probably somebody that's listening or watching that would maybe wonder, is it ever going to be better? They've gone through the hurricane. They everything just it's like one thing after another after another. Maybe some of them have the COVID twice. I mean, I don't know. There's crazy thing. It would help them to know that you can trust in God and there is hope, and this is not how it's always going to be necessarily.
It's a season.
It's a season.
I mean, we walk through seasons all the time. The seasons change every year.
Okay, so now I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to change gears fast, all right?
Yeah.
So Denise Kelley, school teacher at 29, went through these traumatic events. You were a kindergarten teacher. During a lot of this period, I'm going to kind of review some of it quickly, but during some of this time, you were a resource person at I think Cherry Street, Title I school, maybe at the time. You did, I guess you taught for a number of years after that?
I did.
Okay. Eventually became a principal?
Assistant principal and then a principal.
Were you at Springfield at one time?
No.
I had that wrong in my head somewhere.
Yeah, I was assistant principal at Beach Elementary and then became principal at Beach Elementary.
All right. And we did talk about the fact my mom was a PE teacher way back then.
I love your mom.
Well,
Can't believe I'm that old.
Mom was not, Mom, I hope my mom's
Your
not
mom was young forever.
She
taught PE forever.
She did. She loved getting down on the floor with my kids, and I loved it. She's a teacher at heart. But then you got a chance to help open as principal Breakfast Point, right?
Yes.
Which everybody on that beach knows that school's done phenomenally well. one of our staffers, our children's minister, at that time was starting as a teacher, a third grade teacher under your leadership. I asked her this afternoon, I tried to do my research. I said, hey, tell me something about Denise Kelley. She said, well, she loves Jesus. And I said, well, that's good. She said, well, she's awesome. She said you were very supportive of teachers, and you were you're a great leader. So she thinks the world of you.
Well, thank you. I do, Bridget.
Tell me. Well, I know we got one brand new one opening. I know that there's talks of some, and I know that there'll be some more that are going to open in a couple of years. For instance, well, let me back up. Gary Walsingham Elementary. Did I say that right?
Academy.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's the new elementary school on the beach.
It sure is.
Is that going to be a few students?
So right now it's going to be a few students because we have built that school, which is what we're working on in future developments. We built that school knowing that community is growing. Like there are home developments and home plats are selling houses out there as fast as they can put the sign up for sale.
Where is out there? I mean, I know it's on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah.
But there's.
So it's where the new sports complex is on Panama City Beach.
There's apartments everywhere out there.
Yes, and it's right across the street from that.
Okay.
So it will have students in it from the Woodlawn neighborhood, an older neighborhood, partially down between Middle and Front Beach Road.
Yep.
No, Middle and Back Beach Road. And then it's going to include the new phases of Breakfast Point Academy.
Okay.
So it's going to be a neighborhood school. Right now they're opening as a K-2 school. We're going to house all of our beach pre-K classes there because they have space right now.
Okay.
But then next year they'll add their third grade and they'll continue on until eventually it'll be a K-8 school.
Okay. So it'll start as a K-2, eventually be a K-8. Another school that their plans to reopen is Oscar Patterson.
That's correct.
And it will also start as a K-2. Is that right?
Yes. The superintendent has taken to the board a proposal to open Oscar Patterson in August of 2022. We're in the planning phase.
Sounds so weird to hear that.
I know.
We're kind of in the summer of 2021, so
yes.
you got to be planning.
Yes. So we are working on renovations, updating the building, preparing that school for reopening, trying to get the community more involved and the parents involved in the school. We're going to be choosing a principal for that school in the fall, and along with the school advisory councils and just working to open that school and provide that community with a neighborhood school.
So you've been listening to the community. They want a community school. You're counting on the community to help make it happen.
Sure. I mean, it takes all of us to make everything successful.
Coming 2022.
Yes, coming 2022.
There's a ton of construction going on.
Yes.
A lot of it is hurricane construction. Taking a lot of planning to get to that place. I know that one of the highlights we've mentioned before is the new gymnasium over at Jinx and how nice it is. One of the notes that you had given us, they're in the process of doing some things at WozEd. Sounds like a new band room, new cafeteria, these kind of things. Oddly enough, it's the same stuff that I'm a WozEd guy, right? So all the way back when I was in Mustang Land,
wow.
That stuff needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
I was talking to the principal over there, Ed Sheffield, Jr., earlier today, and he's excited about some of that as well. While we're talking just about some of the construction, I think it's important. We all know that we are having to add new schools, and there are a lot of people moving to town. I get lots of questions when I'm having these guests on. I'm asking people, hey, what would you want me to ask them? And they want to know from all of our officials, what is the plan to keep up with infrastructure? Well, praise the Lord that we got people coming.
Yes.
That there is growth. From a financial standpoint, you never want to be that place that has to bear the weight of the burden of building it before they get here, right? And so we're always, I think, going to have to just kind of make sure that they're here so that we can pay, let them help us pay for what's coming. But in light of all that, we had a number of students that moved away after the hurricane.
Sure, we did.
And so I know if we use, say, WozEd as an example, they had over 1,100 students at that time. They've had quite a few less than that. That number is rising and continues to rise. But you were indicating to me that kind of the location has a lot to do with population. For instance, you mentioned Bozeman as being a place that their enrollment's going up really quick. I bet the same is the case with Gary Walsingham Academy. in some of those areas. And so it looks like it's going to have to be a combination of planning new schools where those are needed to keep up with infrastructure. And then also we actually have, I'm calling it good news, because we actually have some margin in a few of the schools, such as more, that we can continue to build back population
for growth
to what capacity is. And you were even saying in some of them that as you're building back areas, you may actually get more use out of those spaces.
Sure. So, I mean, the construction of Gary Walsingham is a prime example of what the superintendent and the facilities department is doing in conjunction with the county. So that school is not going to open at capacity, but based on the plans that they have that they've looked at and met with St. Joe and all the developers on the beach side, the schools at the beach we're not going to be able to hold those. And so 3 to 5 years ago, they started planning, we've got to have another school on the beach. So Walsingham will open not at capacity, but within a year, it's going to be more at capacity, and it's probably going to be filled up because I don't know if you've driven to the beach, but the apartments are going up and the homes are just exploding. So that's the same thing around the county. They're constantly meeting with government officials, Department of Transportation, all of the entities to find out where's the growth. Tyndall is bringing in lots of families. Tyndall Academy, you know, they have started their middle school at Tyndall Academy. So now they're going to have K through 7th grade this year. And so those families are coming in, and those families need somewhere to live.
They do.
And so they're going to be on the east side of the county. And so, you know, we're actually already talking to the county, the city of Panama City, about where are we going to build a school out there, and where's the school going to be located? And we're in planning phases right now because the families are coming. So our district is trying to be proactive in knowing the growth and the populations instead of being reactive, because as you know, it takes quite a number of months to build a school.
You know, even in what you said, you're actually trying to, I think what you're saying is good, because I think you don't want to put shovel in ground any sooner than you have the funds, but at the same time, you better have planned in advance how that was going to go. And I think that makes a lot of sense. One of the places where the planning's been involved, and it's been hard for me to kind of put my finger on it because I've been in a lot of meetings with you guys over the years trying to be supportive. And one of the places that's fascinated me is to see an intention relative to major employers in Bay County, places like the Navy Lab that is going to need engineers. And I've watched colleges try to work that way to get engineers. We'll talk about academies in a minute. We know that there's going to be, like now, we're going to have a strong need for welding. We're going to have need for certain, culinary arts. We've got several really strong programs for that. And to know that there are some programs that are on like the drawing board, and that's being looked at and that's being talked about behind the scenes with business people. How do we get the jobs that we need for the industries that are coming? I mean, all of those are things that y'all are juggling back there, right?
Sure.
And I know y'all have a person at the district that's over all this. Like Beth Patterson is her name. She's extremely helpful. There'll be a link in the comments. You can ask her all this stuff about any of those. But let's talk about just a couple of those if we could. Okay. Like Rutherford is in the process of building a welding academy
and a lab. Yes, so they are almost complete with setting up that academy with the simulators and actually the welding machines, so that when students are at Rutherford, it leads directly into the Haney program.
Okay.
And could potentially shorten the length of that program and provide them with some skills if they wanted to obtain their certifications or license to finish that program. That's just one example. We are continuously growing programs based on the needs of the community. I know that we meet regularly with business people. We meet with the hospitality industry, construction industry. They actually come to us too,
right?
And they say we need these skills. And so based on their needs and their desires of the community, we actually work with Beth and with the state to write grants or to implement programs that are meeting the needs of our community. In fact, today I was on a call with Gulf Coast Medical Center and talking with them because they need nurses. And so we were trying to work out a plan of how can we get some of our students who are in the medical training track. Mosley has a great medical type academy that they have.
Okay.
How can we get them, and how can we get the students that are going to be entering the allied health program at Bay High School, how can we get them actually in the hospital?
Okay.
So that they can get their feet wet, they can learn about the hospital. And then there are so many employers in Bay County that offer to pay tuition for people to continue their degree, to get their degree. And so we are constantly meeting with them, and that's why you're going to see new academies pop up.
Well, employers are hungry for people that will come and work and that are qualified to do so. And I'm assuming if they can get locals that are coming through the high schools that are already trained and they can fashion them. I mean, I know I've learned from just what little employment that we do that sometimes it's better to get somebody fresh that you don't have to get to work the rough habits out or untrain and all that kind of stuff. And so if employers, as hungry as they are for that, can work with you on it, I think it's really neat.
Yeah, and a lot of them have poured their own finances into some of these programs to make them successful because they know the funds within the school district is limited.
Yep.
And so they're providing additional funds and additional equipment to make it successful.
One example, and I don't know about which fund is and all that stuff, but I know that you were talking about heavy equipment operators at Arnold High School. They've got to me, it's just the epitome of cool. I just would love to play on the playground with that little thing that did the scoop.
Right, that's
you're talking about literally being on the high school campus or somewhere that they get to go and doing the backhoe, like legit full-size backhoe. I mean, we did some work out here with a bulldozer and they let me drive it. I mean, I don't know how I got a chance to do that. These guys get to do that in high school, and then you've got a construction company, if you will, that is able to recruit. They're investing in the equipment and then able to recruit employees from that.
Yes. I mean, we have students that are actually working the simulators, and it's literally like you would go to Funland and sit in front of a simulator or their TVs at home, and the controls are there. It's like 3D, 4D. It moves them. They can feel the weight of it, and they can leave high school, Arnold High School, ready to operate the equipment and can be put to work.
We used a term, or I've heard a term in some of the research for this about industry certifications. And that seems to be a term that is relative to many of these academies.
Correct.
Everything from those that are engineering-based, nursing-based, agricultural-based, construction-based. And when they get these certifications, whether they're going to a local contractor to get a job, or if it's culinary arts and they've got a certification, now they're going to the restaurant and they already know how to prepare vegetables and cook certain things and juice. Those are giving them a head start, correct?
Correct. Yes. And so employers are looking for those. And I think the one probably a lot of people are familiar with is like you hear people say, I have a Microsoft certification, right? Because they've been through all of the training to become Microsoft certified.
Yep.
It's kind of it's the same thing, but you are certified in heavy equipment. You're certified in some sort of cybersecurity. You're certified in some digital technology. So there's lots of certifications, culinary arts. And so once you have those certifications, they're yours. You've earned them. And so if you're going out and you're interviewing for a job related to that field, you can walk in and say, I have this certification. Well, it makes you qualified over another person, or that may be the qualification. Right. So many of our students are leaving high school or Haney with these certifications, and they're employable immediately, making a lot of money.
I'm gonna give you an example, and I hope it's okay that I do. I talked earlier today in my research to Becky Peltonen, who is over the Agricultural Academy at Bozeman High School, right? She was Teacher of the Year. I'm bragging on her because she's one of ours, but Teacher of the Year 2019. But I'm asking her about all this stuff, and I've just taken notes and notes and notes, and we talked about pruning roses and a bunch of other things because she's really good with agricultural stuff. But she told me she had a student that had, they teach them how to do a resume as a part of all the 4 years in the program. But they get these industry certifications. In fact, I think their school leads the state in agricultural industry certifications. And so she had a student that had gone through some part of a dairy program, and there was a certain term relative to that. And the employer that she was seeking a job with saw that part, like that she had been certified in that. And she said, that means you took a public speaking aspect to do that. I have no idea how it fits with the dairy piece, but she said that means you can talk to customers. You're hired, like on the spot. She had that certification. It was all she needed to know. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And she told me some other stuff too that I thought was really interesting with those certifications, because not everybody's going to go be an engineer.
Sure.
You know, some people, this sounds harsh, but some people actually have to make real life work. I mean, engineers design it. They put it. That sounds like it's not a compliment, but it is, in the sense that, you know, you don't have to have a college degree to make a good living.
Correct.
And not everybody's designed that way. And so whenever you have these academies that allow you to get into a field that can allow you to make a good living, and we got people watching, I'm certain, that are grandparents and parents who don't necessarily think their kid's going to go off and get the degree. And we have some kids that get to degrees and they can't find a job.
Correct.
But all these academies are putting people in a position where they could find a job in high school, right? If they're certified in some of these things, can work locally.
And some of them, and they're not you can't necessarily get a certification potentially in all of the areas in a year.
Right.
Some of them take multiple years to get them, but a lot of these industry certifications, they walk out employable and ready for the workforce. It also puts students who are going to college at an advantage, because if you're going into a college, into a medical field, and you have certifications in some sort of healthcare, it may be very competitive, and so they look at other things besides just the GPA. Not just the SAT score. They're looking at what have you done to show me that you're really interested in pursuing this. And if you have these things under your belt, it shows a commitment.
It's something in addition to what the grades have been, et cetera. That's good. No, that's really good.
But I would like to say that a lot of our academies lead to great jobs. These certifications lead to great jobs. And Haney is one of the best recognized schools in this area and in the state for turning out qualified, employable people.
I want to actually have somebody from Haney on here pretty soon to talk more about that, because I think it matters. The CTE is, I think, the term that's used, career
technical education.
And there's all these, I'm going to read them real quick, because it's like construction, cybersecurity and IT, culinary arts, digital design, digital media, early childhood, engineering, entrepreneurship, game simulation, animation, visual design, hospitality and tourism management, unmanned aircraft systems, web design. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had mentioned that I thought was really cool, one of the things that Becky told me is that it related to the Agricultural Academy. It used to, let's see where it is in my notes. It used to be cows, plows, and sows. And now within the agricultural industry, it is clones, phones, and drones. And the reason she made the largest, and maybe she's wrong, but she's a smart lady.
Wrong.
The largest employer in America is the agricultural sector. So recreation, like parks, that fits under agriculture. She listed off all these things. Only like 20% of the jobs in the agricultural area require college education.
Degrees.
But then when she began, that's a lot. But then or not many really, but whenever you think about what they're doing now in that industry, now granted, I took a tour of her classroom a few years ago.
Did you hold the goats?
No, I showed up on a day that somebody had a pig, a mama pig. Is that what they call a sow thing? Yeah. Anyway, a mama pig who had stepped on her babies, right?
Oh.
That's not good news.
No.
The good news was that while we were in the classroom, there were 15 and 16-year-olds doing sutures on these little baby piglets.
That's so awesome.
And at that academy, I mean, I promise you, this is cool stuff. Like, they've got a fully operational farm, and they're learning how to sustainability. They're learning how to go pick groceries when you get like vegetables and all that kind of stuff. But then she gets into all the scientific stuff. And so when she said, Steve, literally, they have technology with these drones now where you can pick out in an entire field, you can pick out a single plant and a single bug, and it will spritz. That was the word she used. It will spritz the pesticide and kill that single bug. I said, you're kidding. She said, nope. And she started talking about how it works scientifically. I mean, she was in the rocket science side of things, but, the NASA part of it. within the science field before she went out there.
Sure, she was.
And I know it sounds like I'm braggadocious, but like, listen, this is Good News Bay.
Yeah, it is.
And we got an academy at Bozeman High School that has gotten 7 state titles and a national title in the last year in their field. And so when you send kids down there that are in FFA, which is not cows, plows, and sound, but it's now phones, drones, and clones. What is your kid getting when they go to the state title? The same thing. I'm sitting here looking at a baseball player and Alex, but you know, our state championship Mosley team with baseball, right?
Sure, yes.
They got tremendous exposure as a team for being at that state tournament. And so all of those players had scouts looking at them. That's exactly the thing from what Becky was telling me that happens when you go to a state meet in any of these agricultural areas. And the year that we won the national title, that was in relationship to like the environment. And so there's all these things that they're involved with that are really high tech. And I guess what I'm saying is that even if you're fielded in engineering, you could get national level exposure and get some really lucrative offers from national level companies. I will say this because I'm on this kick with the agricultural. I hope it's okay.
Oh, it's good.
Much of the agriculture industry today is marketing and it's sales and it's production related and it's not relative to can you raise a farm that has 1,000 head of cattle on it. And I think people take that for granted. But here locally, our educators know that and they're training kids up in that regard.
Yeah, I mean we're starting early, and you know you talked about the drones that can spritz the weed.
We got drone programs.
So we have drone programs that students can finish and earn their certification and their FAA certification and fly the drones to spritz.
So if I'm offering good news, right, I actually did study my notes, even though we aren't going to get to talk about all of it because I'm probably over time, way over time. They're going to have to cut a bunch of stuff out. But if I'm a parent. And I didn't know we had all this in Bay County, I could literally call Beth Patterson or go online and look at some link that we'll provide. If my child loves drones, my child loves robotics, they want to be an engineer, they want to work with heavy equipment, or they like plants, or they like animals. There's all this opportunity. And these programs, some of them start in these certifications that we're talking about. Some of them start in middle school, right?
Some of the certifications do start in middle school. And we're starting, we do have this program called WozEd. Steve Wozniak with the Apple computer has developed this CTE program. It starts in kindergarten and it goes all the way up. But we have started that in many of our elementary schools last year. We're growing that this year, and all of our elementary schools will have the WozEd curriculum, and it literally is starting students in kindergarten in coding.
Really?
In
computer coding.
Computer coding. Simple, but computer coding. So by the time, and other things, Legos, putting Legos together, asking questions, inquiry, problem solving skills, programming, robotics. And so those kids, as they move, we're trying to help our students in Bay County from a young age be competitive across the state and nation and the world.
Well, I'm a cheerleader for our community, and like all this new infrastructure, I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do the construction we're doing in a lot of these schools, but the fact that we're having to come back and make it brand new, I mean, we're going to have opportunities to have technologies we wouldn't have had otherwise.
You know, the storm was horrible. But, you know, there's benefits and blessings in so many things, and our schools are getting upgrades and new technology. It's been painful, but...
It has been.
I mean, it's been painful, but it's been... The good news is we're getting new and better equipment and better schools.
So, 2 things I want to hit before we have to close it out. One is I know that we have had some new teachers move to Bay County. There are scads of people that are moving here for a variety of different things that we've talked about in all parts of the community. If any of them have interest in teaching, we still need some teachers. I know we're going to have some information online about that. There's a couple of incentives, though, still happening, right? Yeah,
sure. So we do need teachers. The good news is that if you have a bachelor's degree or a college degree and you want to teach, we can help you get into the field the area in which you want to teach, whether it be elementary, whether it be middle, high school, science, language arts. We have programs for that. So we are asking people that are interested in becoming a teacher to contact us, and there is information that are going to be in the notes or the comments about that, and we can help them walk them through that process and help them become a teacher. And there are programs that they have to complete, requirements from the state of Florida,
Right.
and it will cost them something up front, but we have reimbursement that we can provide them to pay for those courses, and we're just asking for anyone. We have a spot for you. If you love children, you want to change our future, and you want to pour into the students of our future, and you
Right.
think teaching is your career or your next career. We have people coming back that have retired in certain areas and now they want to teach. If they want to do that, we are happy to help them grow in that area.
Well, and what I'm hearing is if you're capable and we can get you qualified, even if you've been retired, they take you back and they pay you to work with the kids.
Yeah, and we train you too. We'll train you too.
That's going to make this next one a hard sell. Some of you aren't looking to work, but may just love kids and don't want to get paid.
Oh, this is true.
Elevate Bay is a mentoring program, so maybe you do work and you have half an hour every other week minimum. We got a lot of kids that don't have a stable home environment, don't
Correct.
have two-parent homes, and Elevate Bay is a district
You're a
initiative.
mentor.
I'm a mentor and love it and have been blessed by it.
How long have you been with your student?
He was a fifth grader at Patterson, and now is going to be he's going to be a ninth grader at Bay.
Wow.
And so he is, I believe he's finishing up and is excited about making that next jump. So it's been wonderful to get to see him make those changes from fifth grade week by week. So it's good. Yeah, I am a mentor with Elevate Bay and would encourage anybody to do the same. You have been an amazing guest. Thank you for letting me ask you hard questions.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing your story. And I know that your story is an inspiration to an awful lot of folks that have met, some of them that are in the middle of their storm, that they can, rather than have fear, they can trust God and believe. So thank you so much for your time.
No, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you were encouraged by the good news, we would ask you to subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, as well as YouTube. If you will subscribe, all new content will come your way. You'll get notified of it, and it'll help us to brighten Bay County. Thanks, guys.